Hey everybody, my name is Snitch. Welcome to another episode of CO Select. A couple of things before we start today's episode. First of all, I would like to apologize for spoiling the video. In the last episode, I spoiled the result of the game. Honestly, I was really excited for the game and kind of got lost in my commentary. I didn't really think about it. Definitely not a cool thing to do. Just assuring you guys I would not be making a habit of it. And yeah, once again, I'd like to apologize to those of you who felt the video was ruined at all by my mistake. Will not happen again. Second of all, I'd like to give another shout out to another content creator that you guys can check out if you're looking for more advanced tools by web content. Honestly, if you haven't heard of them and you've been watching me, then you've been missing out. DSci is a great player, way better than me. They recently put out season 4 of their League Review series where they go through each individual hundreds bracket, so 700 to 800, 800 to 900 ELO rating of the global league system, and they look at a replay from each bracket and they identify the different kind of mistakes that these players make and the different ways that they try to win the game and this kind of thing. It's a really interesting series. DSci is, once again, a great player, great creator, and yeah, if you guys are looking for more content that's super high level, I definitely recommend checking them out. And I mean, like I said, even though they are much better than me, much higher level analysis, they do break down all these like different skill level games, so it's definitely a really interesting experience. I will link their channel down below. It's DSci on YouTube if you want to find it yourselves. Anyways, let's get into today's game. Today's game is a tier 3 match on Wondershot. I play against FKZY12345. I don't know much about this player, but from what I've come to grasp on the Discord, they're actually very, very good. They recently returned due to the site's recent resurgence. Yeah, I mean, at least from my experience, found they were a very good player very quickly. But yeah, this is a fog match on Wondershot. Really interesting map. Got this weird kind of opening, very strange opening section with this deployed lander and this kind of thing. My opponent's playing Andy today. Andy has no day-to-day ability. His regular CO power is Hyper Repair, which repairs all of his units with 2 HP. Traditionally, you almost never use this. And his super is Hyper Upgrade, which repairs all his units with 5 HP, gives them all a movement bonus of 1 for that turn, and gives him a firepower bonus, I believe, of... Do you see this? I should have charts open just in case, bear with me while I just double check. I think it's just... Yeah, it's just 10% plus the 10% from... The 10% from the passive bonus you get from using any CO or superpower. Every CO gets plus 10% firepower and defense whenever they use it. And I'm playing Rachel today. Rachel's day-to-day is that she repairs an additional 1 HP whenever her units are repairing on cities. Obviously, you pay for the costs. Situationally, pretty useful, especially if you're repairing on the front line, can actually be quite substantial, but sometimes the income hit can be quite painful. Her regular power is Lucky Lass. Kind of like Nell's, sets her lock rating to 0 to 40. Once again, you pretty much never use it, and her superpower is Covering Fire, which shoots 3 2-range missiles that deal 3 damage. 1 at your opponent's most concentrated area of infantry, 1 at your opponent's concentrated area of unit value, and 1 at your opponent's concentrated area of unit HP. And I mean, obviously, like we talked about with Mumble in the past, these kind of things can be played around, and that is definitely a highlight of this game that I would like to identify, is the way the FKZY exceptionally plays around powers and stuff like this. Yeah, I felt like it was a pretty good game, and fog content's always pretty interesting. And this map is really curious. I mean, I don't know if I played the opening as well as I possibly could have done. Really interested to see how my opponent played it. But I do think this match showcases a few great tactics you could use in fog to get a big advantage and kind of take advantage of fog's conditions. So let's get straight into it. Okay, my opponent was going first this game. Double infantry build and move the lander back. This is pretty much, I looked up some openings. Once again, great habit to get into if you don't know how to play a map. Look up openings so you see what better players did so you can get experience with it. My first turn, moving my infantry up, getting ready to capture this base. Okay, yeah, my opponent's infantry. The infantry disappeared. I was very confused. Same thing for my opponent. Start capturing the neutral base. Move down for this close city. Moving my other infantry around. See what my opponent goes for. They start capturing the port. I don't know where this infantry keeps disappearing. Where did he go? Okay, they're actually moving for the lander, so they ignore this property on the first turn. They're immediately moving to get either these 4 properties or moving for the lander straight away. So already a little bit of a difference with regards to how we've decided to open the game. I'm moving in infantry up here as well, you know, still contesting these properties. My opponent finishes their base cap straight after mine, and yeah, they're actually just going for these 4 properties first, not making use of the lander yet, just trying to get these 4 as soon as possible. I guess so you could feel better about pushing out infantry with this lander to this kind of southern section, and maybe other units. Or perhaps this is just the most efficient routing, I'm not really sure. These properties maybe are just more accessible because this base and this base are much closer. I suppose now, with these 3 infantry, my opponent can access all the properties on the next turn, so... I guess if they built another infantry here and then finish this cap, they could immediately put 2 infantry into the lander and it'd be very, very efficiently done. So yeah, I do think my opponent's opening is a little bit better than mine from what it looks like. I'm still capturing my neutrals. I have another infantry here. I actually built an APC. Fairly common in Fog, I'd say. But I go for this map because, you know, I feel like there's a lot of like central properties here. There's the comm tower. I just feel like this whole opening section is really ugly. Just in terms of like moving units out, and I just feel like I was going to get a big bridge of infantry here. It is a problem that happens, so I felt like getting out early transport would definitely help me get units around. My opponent actually builds a tank here. I mean, I didn't have like the income to make this kind of play, I think. I had 5117. Yeah, I didn't have the income. I only had 8k last turn. So my opponent gets out a tank before me. Pretty standard stuff as well. I end up just like putting both units into both infantry into the lander anyway, trying to get out to some of these cities. You know, I'll capture this next one with another infantry. Moving out with the APC, getting my infantry across the bridge. They load out the tank and the infantry into the lander. So very offensive early deployment from my opponent. I actually really like this a lot. I mean, mine are quite undefended. I mean, it'll be a while before this area is, you know, reinforced by my opponent, but it does allow them to play very aggressively with this tank and kind of hamper my movement out from here. I think it just kind of stems from their opening being a little bit more efficient than mine. They do end up ignoring this city. I've already gone for it, but they're just letting this infantry slowly get to it. I actually built a mech as well on this turn. So mech double infantry coming out from my opponent here. We are even in the income game for now. I load 2 more infantry onto the lander. Get this infantry of the APC, start rushing out my troops. Trying to get deployed on the map, you know, as fast as possible. End up building my first tank and 2 more infantry, and I go for a T-copter because I have an extra 5k here. This is quite a lot of money on transports. Maybe I wouldn't have done this in hindsight, but I was just kind of like, I had 14k, and you know, again, it just seems like the map is very hard to get these infantry around on, and this is going to get really cloggy if I'm constantly pushing out infantry from here. I mean, the lander was free, so I guess you can't count that, but yeah, I guess I have a lot of commitment to transports here, but it's more just because of like, yeah, how the early game developed. I guess ideally I would have liked to get the T-copter over the APC, but I didn't have access to the airport on the turn that I built the APC. And yeah, I only had 8k that turn and 3 bases, so I couldn't afford to build like a tank or anything. My opponent does get a T-copter as well, so I guess they have a similar mindset with me in that regard. They grab their first recon, slowly moving their mech out. Finish capturing some properties. I'll be 1 behind next turn, so my opponent's doing pretty well. Move my T-copter out, ready to pick up a unit. Start capturing my comm tower. I think a combat's gonna start soon. And I end up ramming face first into the tank, pushing out my APC. Really great tank place from my opponent. Catches my APC right off guard. But obviously this won't die, so it's not the end of the world. Move out my first tank here. Build another tank here, ready to be picked up by the lander next turn. Opponent finishing capping, sending units down with the T-copter as well. I'm actually pushing my T-copter more towards the center because I already have the 4 infantry here from the lander, so I guess a bit of a difference in the way we're pushing out our units there. They go for a big hit on my APC, go down to 4. Kinda sucks. We build an artillery, a recon, and a infantry. But I probably have 2 recons already. I should definitely consider building one soon. I may have been a bit delayed on my vision grabbing this game, I think, I'm not sure. I pushed my APC down for this city. Maybe a bit too aggressive, given that there's a tank around. Probably a bit of an overextension. I should have going north of the T-copter as well. Getting my infantry on the mountains, trying to scout a bit, pulling the lander back, loading more units into it. Got a tank in there, not just infantry. I built my first B-copter of the game and 3 infantry. Yeah, I saw a replay of this map where B-copters seemed really influential. Very easy to obviously get them out because they don't get stuck on this bridge or having to wait for the lander. Felt like air units got a lot of value. So I was immediately thinking it seemed like a good way to go. They do actually reveal my APC here. The tank finishes off, so yeah, definitely a bit of a mistake. Ended up throwing away 5k funds for basically nothing. And my infantry's kind of stuck as well, so just going too far forwards, just underestimating my opponent's unit positioning and how easy they can get vision and stuff. Should have just gone back here and dropped on the city, and it probably would have been fine. Just a bit too aggressive. Definitely, you have to learn not to overextend a lot harder in Fog. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I am in range to counter it, right? So that's why, you know, it's like, it's not entirely bad because, you know, I have the range to punish this tank with a first strike in return. So my opponent kind of took a gamble as well, just going for the hit, whereas I do have the tools to actually get a punish. But, you know, once again, it's like, I actually don't do it. I could have gone for it here. 3, 4, yeah, I could have hit this tank. I guess I just didn't really see it in time. But it's kind of the same problem, like, it's like, do I know if my opponent has more units? They could have just rushed out another tank, but I think it's extremely unlikely. I think this is actually a really big mistake, and I could have got a big tempo swing here, because I think losing my APC, but getting, you know, equivalent amount of damage on the tank, because I would probably get 8-4 here, right, because I have my comm tower, and that's, you know, 7x6, 4,200 damage on a tank. And yeah, I lost my APC, but I almost make it even in tank value. I think it actually would have been a pretty good result for me, so definitely a big mistake there not seeing that attack. Moving my units around, transporting infantry back towards the center, finally getting a tank up on the top side, getting a copter up here, and my opponent has so many recons. Perhaps something to learn from, eh? And I built my first anti-air. I'm kind of expecting copters from my opponent as well. Yeah, part of what makes this map so interesting is that the fronts are very difficult or weird to like reinforce. It's not impossible to reinforce both, but this one is kind of a longer walk, and then this one relies on the lander. So you can only reinforce this one every 2 days, even though it's closer. And this one is like maybe also like 2 or 3 days, but like you can walk, so you can do it every turn once you get like the tank chain going, if you know what I mean? You know, buy a tank, move it, buy a tank, move it. You can get a chain going, you know, and you can always be reinforcing. Whereas this one is always 2 days because you have to wait for the transports, but it is a lot closer, so. Opponent gets out 2 infantry. Man, I feel really bad about missing that tank attack. Especially given the state of the board, I think I could have probably determined that this is my opponent's only tank in this area, unless they were really, really aggressive. So that's really unfortunate, because I think it would have been a big swing in this early game. Big shame I didn't see it. My opponent builds their first battlecopter here. You go for the interrupt of my capturing infantry, just moving all their units out. Got a lot of recons coming, so they're gonna have a lot of vision. Do end up getting this infantry low. Move my tank into the woods. I do end up seeing this recon, so I know where to position my battlecopter so my opponent doesn't see it and start building anti-air. Obviously fog again, you know, all about hiding intel until absolutely, you know, necessary to reveal, generally. I end up just using the 6 HP infantry to finish off the 1 HP, just so I can deny vision. Generally a bit more done in fog, I'd say, than done in standard. A lot of times in standard, if there's a 1 HP infantry, you can just leave it and just continue capping. But in fog, actually killing the unit can deny vision, you know, in the long run. Like, my opponent could walk this infantry out aggressively, or like try and get like vision into like forest with it or something, or even just dump it in a forest somewhere and it could trap me later. So generally killing low HP units is a little bit more effective. And I ended up removing this infantry from the lander so I can put the recon on it next turn. And I get an artillery, bring my T-copter back, end up sitting it on the airport because then it can refuel anyway. Pretty nice to do if you're picking up something regardless. Opponent gets a big first strike with another recon, finishes off my infantry, finishes off my other infantry, so there's a lot of dudes. Definitely could say I'm overextending a bit here on the top side, especially without recon. That's why I pick up a recon now, because I realize I just don't have the vision to be making these attacks. I think I definitely need to be better at getting recons out preemptively sometimes. You see my opponent here, you know, they've already got 3 and they've got great vision building up. They start moving their copter down, move the tank onto the city, get a big hit on my infantry. Imagine this tank was like 4 HP, what a world that would be. I mean, I guess it would have sat on the city, but then my opponent would have been draining funds and such, so I would have ended up winning more than the APC in the long run, because if they heal from 4 to 10 again, you know, that's another 4,200 spent. So they would have spent 8.4k basically. Or I would have got 8.4k of value in terms of damage plus repair costs. They build their first anti-air. Good call from my opponent. I've actually positioned my copter perfectly out of vision, but they just, I guess, you know, predicted that I'll have some sort of air force. And they're getting out a, anti-air preemptively. So taking some neutrals. My opponent's a little bit ahead on the capture game. I walk in, get some vision, get a big first strike on this recon. Again, maybe it's just a bit too aggressive, you know, like there is a tank in range. Like I think it's too late to be going for these attacks for me. I really need to get better at playing more defensively in fog. But I think I sometimes just get caught up in it, you know, when it feels like my opponent is making like really great confident attacks and they're getting a lot of value. I get an 8-6 on this tank, pretty good actually. Really good defensive lock roll, I think. I think a 7-6 here is generally more likely, but I suppose with the combination of the comm tower damage and just some good luck, I end up getting an 8-6. Moving my recon out, moving an artillery down. Deploying a recon on the top side, 2 more tanks and an infantry. Pretty standard stuff. Yeah, with 3 bases, it can be really hard to get copters out consistently. Like until you get to 18k, then you could do copter tank double infantry every turn. But while I'm stuck at like 17k, it pretty much has to be 2 tanks all the time. I put it to deploying an artillery down here. Is this mech been here? Where's the other mech? Where's he got to? Has this mech just been here the whole time? I don't know if it's bugged or... Oh, I guess he's just had the mech chilling in his base. Oh, he actually ended up killing the pipe seam. I didn't even realize that. That's pretty substantial, actually. Wow, yeah, I definitely didn't even look for that. Oh, is that why he built the mech the whole time? Sorry, this is very interesting. I feel like I have to go back and witness this. Just to see if, like, that's what the mech's been doing. I didn't even take that in. Yeah, the mech takes a shot here. Takes a shot here. Wow, that's really cool. So they actually just built a mech. And the mech's been chilling here, refuels this turn. I forgot what turn we were on, it was this turn, right? Yeah, and then they finish it off with the mech this turn. Is it really that few hits? Do they have any other damage? Oh, they had an artillery take a shot for 1 turn. That's really cool. Wow, what a really interesting play from my opponent. So actually I end up breaking this pipe seam, which probably helps him reinforce the bot side here a lot. It's definitely something I should look to do. I think this is just kind of a thing you don't really think about as much as a newer player, especially when it's like you're new to a map like this. But it's clear that my opponent already has a great understanding of this kind of map design. So they end up moving in with the copter, revealing it to me. I already have an anti-air position, but if I didn't, this would be a great time to build him. I'm a little bit ahead on the unit game, or the unit count actually. I think I just lost one, but I'm a little bit ahead still. I suppose not after the build, but you know. My opponents are pulling back here defensively, so I don't even get the return strike on my tank. Guess they're scared of what I have it behind. So I guess my aggressive attack goes unpunished, but this is again, you know, kind of how fog works, right? You don't know what your opponent has, so my opponent just want to walk up and swing on a tank with just 1 tank, you know? If this tank goes down, suddenly they have no forces to handle the rest of my army, so... I guess in this case, you know, you can kind of say it's the reverse of the other case where I wasn't sure about attacking, or when I end up attacking over here and losing. You know, that's like the reverse of that one, but my opponent chooses not to attack and they don't end up getting punished. Man, this pipe seam break is great. So cool. Definitely keep that one in mind. I ended up going for an aggressive capture up here, because my opponent pulled back, so I felt like maybe they didn't have the forces right now. Really aggressive double hit here, just trying to steal this city, honestly. I go for the comm tower as well, but it's mainly just to distract units. And also block my tank in the corner so it can't be hit from the comm tower. Although obviously it's not unfeasible for my opponent to be able to break it and get out. But I'm mainly just looking to try and capture the city away from my opponent. Moving in here with my units on the bot side. We're both playing really well around each other's vision, to be honest. Really trying to limit how much information we give away on our armies. Moving another recon up. Or a recon up, I suppose. Probably still my first one. Move my transport back. And then, yeah, now I have enough. Now that I have 19k per turn, I can go tank copter double infantry. Dude, this pipe seam break, man. It just feels like it changes the game entirely. Because now my opponent could do 3 bases this way. They could do 2 bases this way. Like, wow, it's crazy. I feel so outplayed just off the map design alone. So my opponent gets the big first strike on the tank. They've got an anti-air moving forwards. Don't think I can see it. But looks like I will be able to steal the city. And that was kind of the intention of my play. I do throw away an infantry and you know, a little bit of HP on the tank. But I should be able to maybe get it back and heal up. And it could be okay. My opponent starts pushing it aggressively on the other side. Although they don't actually have a recon, so they don't really know what I have in reserve. They do have an artillery sneaking into these woods that I don't know about. We'll see how much I can get out of the fact that they don't see my army. Because they actually just seem to have a bunch of infantry here. A couple of, like a copter in this center position, but just a copter and a tank and an artillery. So not an unbeat or like not a small force necessarily by any means, but not exactly a crazy one. And this is one of the things I think that my opponent does really well, and this is something that really is great in Fog, I'm starting to realize, and I really need to incorporate into my own play. It's just really aggressive tacking. If you look at my unit composition, I mean, I have one artillery, but unlike Standard, where you can see there's a medium tank and you can predict or you can plan how you're going to deal with these things. I don't know how I have any idea this thing is coming until it's too late. And I feel like I just don't actually do this enough. Like, my opponent had 18k here, and instead of going like double tank or whatever, they go medium tank, double infantry, and this thing is going to be such a pain. This kind of aggressive tacking, I think, is like super valuable. Definitely something I need to look at exploring more, especially when you're like in a solid defensive position. It seems like a really good way to punish. So I end up stealing this city, pulling my tank back, although I might die, to be honest. Can't really get very far away. So I'll take some aggressive trades on the bot side. Pick up this infantry with one hit. Moving my other infantry forwards, getting this artillery in position. Got 2 tanks reinforcing, so I'm feeling very confident about this area. Interrupt the capture. Moving my T-copter infantry into the middle as well. I've got 2 copters to defend this tank. My opponent is actually building a lot of anti-air, so good prediction from them to kind of like assume that I'd be reinforcing this area a lot with copters. I have another tank coming up though, so I do have some solid vehicles up here to kind of help hold this position. Move my infantry down, double tank infantry. See, I could have gone for the same build as my opponent, and I have like 22k. So like, I feel like at this point, maybe something like, you know, I mean, I actually had, is it just 18k I have? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I spent 15. So I have 18k, so I could go for the medium tank double infantry as well. It's definitely a build I'll think about exploring more in the future. Because it's like, unlike Standard where I'm just used to like, you don't want to build these units because people will just build the counters. If you don't have the counters ready, a lot of times, why would you? Why would you build the counters for a medium tank before you've even seen one necessarily? But you can really catch people off guard. I had a similar Fog game as well where the same thing happened. My opponent reveals their artillery here. I should know where it is and what it is. Pretty sure I do. They end up moving their forces down towards the south, kind of giving up on this northern area. Just going for a big pivot. Which I can't really see as well. I can see the infantry walking in here, but I don't have much vision in the center, to be honest, so my opponent will probably get away with this undetected, for the most part. Move the units around, move the tank on the city. Really great wall formation from my opponent here. Move my recon up again. Go for the 2 KO in the city. Finish off this, infantry, move my artillery up. I might take a big hit on this tank, but I feel like I've got a pretty solid defensive formation. I've got tanks covering, you know, I've got 4 tanks here and an anti-air against what I presume to be 2 copters and maybe another tank coming. I barely don't have vision of this. Even with my aggressive recon, I'm just 1 tile short of catching this. Now, obviously, I could know this. I could certainly know where my opponent's drop-off points, right? The lander always has to drop in the same locations, so I mean, he could have put it in the woods, but it's unlikely. So I could have been able to find it, but I just barely missed the intel. I moved this infantry in for some scouting into the woods, end up running into a recon, but I can at least see where some of my opponent's forces are. I get tanks on the cities. Put another copter, another 2 tanks, and infantry. Apologies, quick caffeination. Right, my opponent's just an anti-air moving down. Yeah, the forces are all just starting to pivot, picking off my isolated infantry. They get 2 infantry knockouts, and then the medium tank shows and just 1 taps my recon. I take a big hit on my tank from the artillery, and suddenly I'm in like pretty big panic mode. This is a really great pivot for my opponent, to be honest, bringing their army down. Really solid reinforcing. They go for a first strike on my tank, and then they see my anti-air. They hit the artillery as well, obviously really good. But they are sacking at least 1 copter here, I suppose, but they'll be able to kill the anti-air in response, so it normally doesn't even feel that bad. It's not like the anti-air attack will go unpunished. And then I think this is one of the greatest turns, honestly. I think this is just insane stuff. You may be like really confused about my opponent's movements here, but it will all be very clear very soon. I imagine they must have move planted this or something. They end up building another medium tank, double infantry. So I go for covering fire. You know, I see there's a medium tank here, there's 2 copters, you know, there's tanks, there's anti-air. These are all the units I can see. I hit covering fire, and not a single one of them takes a single point of damage. I couldn't believe it. So my opponent had this is just amazing formation setup. Like, I will obviously see where the damage was next turn. I assume a missile hit here and then 2 hit here or something, because this would be the greatest accumulation of unit HP, I suppose, and the infantry. And this is probably the unit count, because they stacked, you know, the lander, the copter, T-copter, another copter, the medium tank. Just amazing setups from my opponent, honestly. Like, nothing but praise for this. This is crazy. I couldn't believe that I pressed cover and fire, and literally not a single unit I can see takes a single point of damage. Like, it was actually nuts. I end up just moving in for some aggressive captures. Go for the comm tower as well. Because I see my opponents pivoted down here. I was hoping they didn't have any units up here, maybe, to cover. Get more infantry out onto the top side. Start moving my units down a bit. Get some tanks up to reinforce. End up picking up one of the copters. Get an artillery hit on this tank. Get another big hit with my other tank. Finish off an infantry sitting on the city. Managed to take out the tank, but the return fires were pretty painful. This artillery is getting so much value as well. And this is like the other problem. The reason why I went for this tank knockout, by the way, is because I'm against Andy. And the thing about Andy is he has a particularly unique playstyle. Like, the missiles did hit where I said, by the way. 2 missiles hit here and then 1 missile hit here. So just amazing setup from my opponent. The thing about Andy is you generally do want to trade, but you want to be able to keep as many units alive as you can, because then when you activate a hyper upgrade, they obviously all get healed, and the value gain is tremendous. So you see, even here, my opponent ends up actually like going for some attacks before even using the power, because it's just giving more value to hyper upgrade, you know. And this whole ball of units that just took, you know, 6 damage, suddenly I've only all taken 1 damage. So valuable. They end up moving their units in. They one-shot my anti-air, finish off my capturing city, my capturing infantry. I lose the one of the comm tower, take a big hit, lose this recon as well. Lose another infantry to a double attack. Copter's moving in, finishes off my tank, lose my artillery. And here I was feeling like, yeah, this is a really bad sign. And I mean, obviously, it's just kind of how Andy is. Like, Andy is a lot about trying to set up these positions where you get a lot of hyper upgrade value, and I just wasn't able to deny enough of it, you know. Like, I tried to pick off some fuller units where I could, especially when I was getting like big opening attacks, but I'm gonna lose a lot of unit count here. Another medium tank's coming from my opponent. Yeah, pretty devastating turn. I'm now down 10 in the unit count, 30k almost in unit value. I move up with my copter, get a first strike. I end up just to keep fighting here. Honestly, maybe a mistake. Honestly, maybe I'm just kind of like tilt fighting here a little bit. Just trying to punish my opponent for like their aggressive turn, but I don't really have the army here to be able to defend. Trying to pick off some of the units that attacked me where I can. I had these like 3 copters that were kind of pivoting around trying to reach both fights, but they couldn't really reach either. I finally built a medium tank on my own, but it's really, really late in comparison. This is kind of the build my opponent's been going for a few times this game, and I finally match it, but feels like the value is not there. I lose this city. I kind of didn't realize it was within reinforced range of the airport, to be honest. Probably shouldn't contest it at all. Lose another tank to the medium tank. Lose an infantry. You know, all the fights are just pretty bad at this point. Lose a copter. Get a big first strike received on my my tank. I do have the 2 copters coming here. I'm kind of like trying to use this as my medium tank counter, but my opponent also revealed they now have a second medium tank, I think. I think I saw it, right? Maybe I didn't see it. I guess I didn't see it actually, yeah, so I still didn't even know they have a second medium tank, but they do. Don't worry! Loses infantry. It's a great playing around vision by my opponent as well. You could definitely see FKZY is a very, very talented player. Losing more units here. They drop a tank. Moving all their infantry up. It's great to reinforce infantry for this kind of build as well. The double medium tank, double infantry. It just gives you more infantry on the map, you know? Like, it feels like it's really solid for a lot of reasons. And yeah, just, like I said, aggressive tacking. If you don't know it's coming, it can be very hard to punish. And something like a medium tank, it's not like building a bomber, you know? Like, it's not a huge funds loss, and it's also a particularly difficult unit to counter without standard units. Like, obviously most people are going to build artillery, but you need to already have them in position and be predicting where your opponent's pushing from and this kind of thing, you know? So it can be very difficult to kind of be aware it's happening. I make a huge mistake here that I don't load my medium tank before moving the lander by accident. So this delays my medium tank getting on the board for another 2 turns, but honestly I think the game is already pretty lost looking from the game state, so I don't think it made a substantial difference. But obviously it is a fairly big mistake. Still getting some good first strikes in the fights where I can, but I just know it's going to be impossible pretty much for me to deal with these 2 units, because now I think I've seen the second medium tank now, so I'm not feeling good, and I had to build like anti-air and stuff as well, because I'm losing my anti-airs, and my opponent has a lot of copters, so there's just too many units that I have to counter at once. And, you know, the medium tank, obviously, the best counter is the artillery, and I just don't really have the units to wall them off. My opponent getting some more good trades. Oops. Starting to capture my northern properties, you know, picking off my infantry that are defending, and I'm gonna start losing my income up here pretty soon. I don't really have the units to be able to hold these properties at all. It's definitely gonna be tough. Opponent moving units up, getting more big hits. Mech reveals itself, but gets a knockout. They built a Neo tank at this point. And once again, you know, it's the same principle, like, I'm gonna press covering fire again, and then literally nothing takes any damage except this one medium tank, and I'm losing my mind, man. Such great positioning from my opponent. Finally, I load up my medium tank, get an interrupt on this capture. Get an interrupt on this capture, but I don't really have the force sustain. I move this copter up outside of the recon's range, just to try and reinforce if there's any counterattacks. Try to pick up infantry. Finally, I get some hits on the medium tank, but he's also getting really close, or they're also getting really close to hyper upgrade again, and this is a big problem, and especially with a CO like Andy as well, this kind of strategy is even more valuable, because obviously medium tanks are quite hard to take down, and if I get turns like this, right, I start chipping them, but I don't get enough damage, it can be super detrimental for me, because I can end up in positions where they're just gonna press hyper upgrade, and they instantly gain 8k worth of value on a medium tank, and it has +1 move, and you know, it's just like so many boons for the player on that turn. Bonus next turn. Still going for these captures of my properties. I just don't have the units to defend this. They get a big hit on a tank, and yeah, they just start trading really aggressively, just looking to try and proc hyper upgrade, which they're obviously going to get this turn. They steal my lab. Very sad. How am I going to build black bombs now? Shoot my team copter, bam, hyper upgrade. Both medium tanks back to full HP. They get a big copter hit on my copter, moving their copters down from the center, just picking up units left and right. I just don't have the forces at this point. And I just don't have any answers to these medium tanks, you know? They just kind of came out of nowhere, and I wasn't ready for it, and yeah. I guess I just really need to, like, back off and give up the area. Or at least be, like, teching myself, kind of at the same time. You know, obviously, it's Fog of War, right? I can't predict my opponent's aggressive purchases. And I think here I just end up resigning. Yeah, I'm just too far gone. You know, 18 unit count to 42. Massive army deficit, like almost half my opponent's army value. And yeah, wow, just great game from FKZY12345. You can really see, like, yeah, like I said, on the Discord, they were all praising this player and saying they were really good, and they just come back, and I was like, well, I'll just see how it goes then. And I felt like the early game was going pretty well, but then, yeah, I hit the medium tank roadblock. My opponent played insanely well around covering fire. Like, I think, yeah, there's some really great fog concepts kind of showcased in this game by my opponent. Like, playing around missile powers and hiding aggressive tech units, but, you know, not being afraid to build them. I guess you could definitely say that because my opponent is Andy, these medium tank purchases are a bit more reliable because you do want to play around hyper upgrade anyway. But even still, I don't see why most COs couldn't get away with this kind of build on, you know, any situation where you have just, you know, the reliable income. So yeah, I think pretty crazy game. I think I definitely learned a lot, especially from going through the replay. Yeah, this pipe seam break as well. Super good. I think I could have noticed this in the game if I was paying attention, but I suppose I just never really felt to look. But yeah, I think just really insane game from my opponent. I definitely learned a lot, and hopefully you guys did too. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of CO Select. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. It really helps out the channel. You can also subscribe for more content like this. New video every 2 or 3 days. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I've been Snitch, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye!